Hi, welcome to episode 4 of Sane Gamer. I'm Michelle Madison. Thank you so much for subscribing. So I want to kind of go over some topics that I mentioned last week as well, just because there's been a little bit of action on that front. So I happened to get a suggested video from YouTube from One Winged Chris called A Response to Scarlett Johansson Defending Ghost in the Shell. And basically this guy came on and he told everybody to boycott Ghost in the Shell, boycott Scarlett Johansson, and talked about how it was so racist and offensive and all this crap. And the guy was just obnoxious. And I've seen him before on BuzzFeed. I realized while I was watching that I knew I had seen him somewhere. And I guess he's on a lot of those like questions for white people, questions for white straight men that BuzzFeed does. You know, I'm sure you've seen them, like MTV does some of those things too, where they're just like really weird like questions that like people will come on and be like, I've got a question. Why do you think it's okay to touch my hair? You know, black people might ask questions for white people. And it's like, do black women realize that my hair gets touched too? When I was in high school, guys would come up to you. Like, I had my hair colored in high school for a certain period of time. It was highlighted. And I remember guys would come up and touch it and be like, whoa, look at this hair. It's all highlighted here. That's so weird. This feels different than the other hair, right? And like, people are touching different things. Nobody's like, everything is not automatically because you're a certain way, and nor does it necessarily mean it's negative. Sometimes you might really find somebody beautiful. You might love the braids in a black woman's hair, and you might say, God, that's so cute, and you might make a comment. So I don't think necessarily things like that are so offensive and people take them personally. But yeah, I've seen that guy on those BuzzFeed videos before. So yeah, I kind of couldn't take it, and I kind of I figured I was going to just put out a comment out there to him. I'm just going to read some of our interaction. And I said to him, if you're being hurt by this, you need to buck up, pup. It's a movie. Various races get cast as other races all the time, although she's a robot, not a human, so does that really apply here? When we start looking at each other as simply the human race, we will all be a lot better off. I really wish millennial crybabies weren't dead set on constantly dividing people into subgroups and combing over every form of entertainment with a fine-tooth comb. What the hell is going on outside? There's people, like, trimming the trees. If you hear chainsaws, I'm not cutting up bodies, so you have to excuse me. So I really wish millennials weren't dead set on dividing people into subgroups and combing over every form of entertainment with a fine-tooth comb. However, this video is probably a lot more entertaining than the movie actually will be, so thank you. He replied, Hi, I understand how you feel, but I really think you need to read more pieces written by Asian Americans. There's a lot more than just people being oversensitive. There is a large community speaking out against this movie. You are not Asian American, so please don't tell us how to feel about this movie or that our pain is invalid. So this is the problem I have with him already. He is taking ownership of the entire Asian race. Okay, which is more than just Japanese people. It's Chinese people, it's Filipino people. It's so many different types of Asians, and there's so many different types of Asian thinking. Not every Asian person thinks alike. How dare he speak for all of them? I have Asian friends who I've spoken to this about. A couple of mixed race Asian friends, a couple of 100%, parents were immigrant Asian friends, all different types of Asian friends. I live out here in California. It's not that rare, right? And they said, I don't give a shit who plays in this movie, as long as she can act, as long as she does it justice. One guy said, as long as she's fucking hot. I believe that's what he said, to quote him. I don't know any of these overly offended Asian people. The Asian people I know have senses of humor and don't take the world so seriously, because those are the type of friends I choose to keep of any color, or even acquaintances or internet people that I game with. If I tried to take every single Asian person I interact with for the past 5 years, I've never met one like this. I don't hang around people like this. I hang around with people who don't cry over the casting of a movie. So, but he keeps trying to educate me, okay? Please learn instead of assuming you know better about an experience you are not part of. If you want, start off with this piece and get a better understanding. And he links me something, okay? Because he's an educator. I said, there are large communities speaking out against everything these days. I wouldn't use that in your arsenal. Also, then don't assume you know better about an experience you know nothing about. Where does your argument end, or does it not apply to you? it's okay for you to speak about being an actor or a woman or a Jewish person like Scarlett Johansson is? I said yes, because I believe in freedom of speech. That means we can speak about whatever we want. So if you don't want people calling you out on your views, then don't make a video about them in a public forum. I didn't realize YouTube was only for one type of person or one type of subset of person. Nobody cried when Lucy Liu was cast as a Charlie's Angel or Will Smith appeared in I Am Legend. And unless you've scoured my recent 23andMe or Ancestry DNA reports, you have no clue about me. So I kind of went on to just explain to him what I was just saying to you. Why lump all Asians together? Because people were saying, like, this was made by Chinese people, I believe. It was a Chinese production. And so, you know, this was a decision made by Asians. And if they had cast, let's say, a Chinese actress, then Japanese people may have been upset and say, well, why didn't you cast a Japanese actress? It's a Japanese anime. So, you know, this guy's lumping all Asians together. He's taking ownership of what all Asians feel about this. And he's trying to educate me, telling me I have no experience with anything to do with it. And I kind of said, should white people be doing this anytime an Italian chick gets cast as a Greek, right? Because I'm part Italian. And I see people playing Italians all the time in movies that aren't Italian. But I don't even think anything about it. Like, you're an actor. I told him to stop being part of the divide because he's doing more harm than good. And he said, I'm not in an echo chamber because I engage with people like you all the time as someone on YouTube, and I've heard every argument you've made before. If there are people speaking up about everything, why listen to anyone in this world at all when they disagree with you? None of them are you. None of them have your experiences. You clearly are not open to learning, so I'm not going to waste my time trying to talk to you. I really appreciate you taking the time, but you clearly are not open to learning. When you are, I recommend taking the time to take a sociology class or sit down with other Asian Americans. Approach with the intention of learning, not from a place of aggression, not wanting to be the winner. Okay? Fuck you. You're an idiot. First of all, I've taken many sociology classes, and I'll get into that in my reply. Yes, keep trying to make yourself feel better than others by telling them they need to learn from you, visit Google, take a sociology class. By the way, I took many in the early 2000s. You know, back before all of the fake outrage plagued college education. The visions of grandeur from people like you are beyond reproach. I hope you have a great day as well. One not so shaken by the casting of a Hollywood movie with a popular actress of the human race. Maybe you should approach this subject to learn from others as well, because all of the Asian Americans I know personally don't give a shit about who plays the character. Stop trying to take ownership of an entire race just because you happen to share some DNA. So I think what he's doing is offensive to Asian people as well. And, you know, one of my friends said that. I happen to know him on the internet. But he said, you know what, I find this guy offensive because now people might think all Asians have sticks up their asses and are, you know, whiny crybabies like some other groups. Okay, he's mildly comedically racist. I think he's Asian, but he kind of doesn't like all the crying that the African American community does. And he's like, I don't want Asians to be looked at that way. I'm a cool, chill dude. I find this stuff fun. I like all sorts of stuff. I like all sorts of comic books. I like all sorts of anime. I don't care what race is in them. You know, he loved Luke Cage. He's like, I don't want to think about like this. I just want to watch some good, geek culture type stuff. So he was kind of like mad when I showed him this. He was like, this idiot, this obnoxious, flamboyant idiot, I think is what he said, should not be able to speak for the entire Asian, population. So if anything, this guy kind of pissed him off more than he pissed me off. I was just kind of laughing at him. But yeah, it's like when I see a woman saying some ridiculous feminist shit, I kind of feel like, oh God, don't speak for all women. Please don't speak for all women. Like, don't be a female representative. Don't even be a feminist representative. Because being a feminist can mean you want equal rights, not rights that go above and beyond, and not rights that give you the right to make up bullshit. So there was also somebody else who replied in here that I replied to. She was an African-American woman named Camus Kisses. Very cute girl. And she said, her statement sounds ignorant. A white person playing a character that is Asian? How is that not offensive? So I told her, and I asked her, and she didn't reply. I said, I take it you were highly offended when Will Smith played a white man in I Am Legend. Same for Michael B. Jordan in the Fantastic Four movies. Sean and Marlon Wayans in White Chicks. Michael Clark Duncan in Daredevil as Kingpin. Denzel in Manchurian Candidate. Lucy Liu in Charlie's Angel. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Idris Elba in Thor as Heimdall. Peter Mensa in Spartacus as Omniamos. I always mess up Greek names. The entire cast of The Wiz. Dwayne Johnson as Hercules. Mary Jane in the new Spider-Man, etc., etc., etc. She didn't reply, but of course One-Winged Chris did, and he said, there are several explanations as to why you can't compare whiteface to whitewashing, Michelle. Please do some Googling. It's not our job to explain this to you. You use the same tired arguments people like you use that I always get when I make these kinds of videos. And I asked him, and I didn't get a reply, what makes you an authority on speaking about the human race? Nothing. You're just a person with an opinion like anybody else. Here's a tip. If different people keep making the same arguments to your videos, maybe you're the one with the issue. Get out of your circle jerk of confirmation bias, thumbs up, and pats on the back, and stop trying to shut down people who disagree with your fragile view of the world. You have a long road ahead of you if a movie sends you into a tizzy. And your explanations are nothing more than your emotions and your opinions. And frankly, I got enough of those after being force-fed your video by YouTube in a random suggestion. And this is the problem. These people's opinions, and which are really emotions, they are not based on fact. They're not based on anything. He comes out like he's done a survey of the entire Asian community who's all offended by this. He's speaking for them. He's outraged. Your emotions cannot dictate the fucking world, man. Sorry. They just can't. So get over it. This was a movie made by Asian people. Take it out on the Chinese. Don't take it out on white people. Don't take it out on me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I faced all sorts of things in my fucking life. You don't have a fucking, free pass on having a shitty life just because you happen to be a different color or a different race or different anything than I am. You have no fucking clue about anything. So, thought that I just wanted to mention this right off the bat. If you want to check this video out, just do a search for One-Winged Chris. But I don't recommend it. If you've ever seen him on BuzzFeed, he's over the top. What else did I want to mention this week? So I know I've mentioned Kotaku in Action before, the Reddit, which is kind of cool because they talk about all this stuff with, comic book culture, geek culture, and gaming, and they talk about all the social justice warrior bullshit. Apparently, if you subscribe to this and you ever make a comment in it, you get shadow banned from a lot of other subreddit groups. They have kind of bots that do this. And isn't that just ironic? And that's what Twitter has added recently. You can basically ban certain words that you don't like or don't want to see. So it really sort of reinforces your belief of the world. If you don't hear any other side, or you kind of camp up yourself with only people who think like you and you're blocking everybody else, there's no wonder why these people think that they can speak for entire populations, entire races, entire generations. They can speak for, people have said that Jerry Seinfeld doesn't know comedy anymore and he's lazy because, so they're speaking for, because he's offensive. They said, when he made that Lewis Black Life Matters joke, they said that Jerry Seinfeld just didn't know comedy anymore. So they're speaking for, what everybody finds funny. These people are, just the worst type of people I've encountered on the internet. I'll take a troll any day who says, "Oh, man, I want to touch your tits," or something stupid. Like these people really believe passionately what they're saying, and what they're saying is just so bad. It is so bad against free speech. It's so bad against entertainment. What type of books are being written, what type of games are being made, what type of movies are being made. Pepsi just got into a big thing, which I found funny about I know this isn't anything to do with gaming, but it's pop culture. But they had that Pepsi commercial where they were celebrating diversity, and it was kind of Kendall Jenner was there giving a Pepsi to a police officer, and it was showing it was trying to make protesting cool. There were women in hijabs, jibs, whatever the fuck, celebrating. Yeah, this is great. We're all in the streets. We're dancing. We're drinking Pepsi. And it was for the social justice warriors, really, for this whole obnoxious, forced positivity cause. And the social justice warriors came down on them. And, black people came down on them. All these people that they were trying to please came down on them. And then they apologized and took it down because the argument was, oh, you're trivializing what we're protesting for. You're trivializing police brutality. So just giving a dirty white pig cop a Pepsi is going to make everything okay. So it was these people are going to turn on each other and just fucking self-implode because you cannot be virtuous enough in that world. Intentions don't matter. That was kind of funny to me. I'm going to read a tweet from Odd Samson. He said, Custom Show, I'm loving Sane Gamer so far. Newest episode almost felt like a gaming-focused You Suck show. Huge compliment because I loved You Suck show. So, yeah, John and I will do another one at some point. We generally get into more of those off-topic gaming things, but I like to try to keep this one more towards gaming stuff. But it's hard because it all kind of goes together in this sort of crazy world that we live in where, gaming culture is just a massive part of culture, and it kind of mixes into all these different types of things that we're seeing. So apparently a lot of people are upset because Persona5 has been banned from a couple of places on the internet. But I don't want to talk about the banning. I want to talk about an article I saw, and of course Polygon, which is a never-ending supply of stupidity. An article by Allegra Frank at Legs Frank, very cute. Persona Persona 5's director gives disappointing reason for passing on a female lead. Adding a woman would have been, quote, not worth it. So they took this guy's quote, like, basically out of context and just basically wanted him to say that, you know, having women in games aren't worth it. I guess that's what the angle was that they were going for. So basically what was said was this. With the way that the game's world worked, it was good for us, or okay for us to have a protagonist be female in Persona 3, but with Persona 4, we needed the character to come from a big city to a small country to be the driving force of the story. It seemed more natural for a male character to fulfill that role. There are story aspects built into this decision as well. So they wanted to tell the story of a guy, right? And so what? Like, not every game has to give you the option. Like The Witcher, right? You know, you're living the story of this guy. Just because they didn't want to have to build in some other whole story and some other whole art and all this crap so you could be a female too, doesn't mean it's disappointing. It means this is the story they wanted to tell. And it's also a different culture, not for you to judge. Doesn't this game take place in where? What is this? China? Tokyo? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, Japan? This is obviously a different culture. That who are you to judge? If there's more businessmen in this culture, and this is, you know, what happens to men there in this culture, in this country, why are you here judging it and saying it's disappointing? You have the developers just saying that they wanted to tell a story, and you're saying that it's sexist. So I thought that was just kind of stupid. And in that same vein, apparently a woman called Susan Aaron Dent, the executive editor, U.S. GamesRadar, and Queen Nerd, co-founder of TakeThis.org, the Batman of editors, bless your heart, was going on Twitter bitching about all this stuff to do with females and gaming. And B-Malls linked this to me, and a couple of people linked this to me. And one of her tweets that got to me was simply, yeah, man, that's really rough. Having to play a game that tells you your entire gender doesn't matter. Welcome to womanhood, jerks. Enjoy. And I replied, odd, I've been gaming since 1985, and I don't recall any games telling me the entire female gender didn't matter. And Skid Row said, same. I used to play as the female characters too because they were faster, like Blaze from Streets of Rage. And also, I was saying that a lot of times female characters have smaller hitboxes, and especially in some of the older FPS games, that was the case. So you'd see a lot of people playing them. But whether or not there's benefits to playing a female character or not, her whole argument was saying that the gender doesn't matter just because they don't appear in a game. Or, I mean, she was going on and on. She's got like 10 tweets about this shit, about how done wrong women have been in games. And once again, this is a case of some idiot speaking for an entire group of people. We had that idiot speaking for all Asians before. We've got this bitch speaking for all women. I don't think like her. I never grew up feeling ashamed to be a girl or a woman. I actually thought, hey, this is a pretty cool gig. Right? I mean, there's a lot of double standards that go on sometimes for both sexes. But even in the gaming world, I never kind of looked at anything bad. And there's something like, you know, the dirty little secret is there's more female, you know, gamers than men. That's not true. Maybe mobile gamers, Facebook games. But when it comes down to it, the majority of gamers are still dudes, and that's okay. Not, you know, it's okay if men gravitate towards different hobbies than women. There's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't mean, you know, you get to then take ownership of it just because you want to, you know, talk about some stat that's completely false and includes, you know, Candy Crush. That there, you know, so to look back at gaming, and I never once, and I know my sister's the same way. Like I said, playing games since I was a kid, I never ever remember feeling bad about being a girl in a game. Never. Ever. I played as Mario and I rescued Peach and I thought it was great. I didn't care. I didn't say, oh my God, women have to be rescued. And like I said, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that anyway. So I just thought that this was funny. So my kind of Sane Gamer this week was a lot of interacting with these people. And it's a slippery slope. You got to hold yourself back because you're never going to win an argument. You're probably just going to get blocked and get a bunch of groupies that attack you, but sometimes you just got to let it out. It's got to tell these people like it is. But so yeah, I don't know what's up with Persona 5, but once again, it's okay if we learn, you know, you say on one point, like, we're not getting enough diversity in games. We're not learning about other cultures or other types of people that aren't straight white men. Here we have a game that's trying to teach us about another Asian culture, and you're jumping in and you're saying it's sexist. Well, you know what? there are some aspects in some Asian cultures that you might find sexist, but if to them it's not, if it's acceptable to them and they're trying to tell their story of a man, a businessman, or whatever's going on there, and you're coming out and telling them that's wrong, you know, you can't pick and choose. You know, it's the same thing that goes on with, I don't even want to get into that because it's definitely not gaming related, but sort of how we've got women wrapped, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just pick and choose. Like, if you're going to fight for people, you're not going to fight for people. You're going to want diversity, you don't want it. Like, you can't pick and choose of when it works and when it doesn't. So Persona 5 should be celebrated. It's telling the story of a culture that's different than yours. And that's where we should leave it. Instead of saying that it's so disappointing that they chose a male. You know what? Get over it. This is the way their culture is. This is the story they wanted to tell in that culture. Oh, well. So that's sort of it for me. I don't know if I'll do a Sane Gamer next week. I might. Depends. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of do this here and there. I'm going to go record my Love It, Hate It this week. I got a topic in mind, and that'll also be up on the app. So thank you so much for subscribing, and we will see you next time.